The first sound Claire registered was silence, a silence so absolute that it pressed against her skin. Then, light. A sudden glow pulsed faintly across the ceiling, pale blue, sharp against the darkness. Her eyes adjusted, heartbeat skipping. Daniel's phone. Face down on the dresser, it trembled once more, vibrating like something alive. She turned her head, slow, careful not to disturb the sheets around her. The clock on her side of the bed read 2:17 a.m. He wasn't beside her. His side of the mattress was still faintly warm, but empty. She reached across, flattening her palm against the hollow left by his body. She waited. One breath, another. Then the phone blinked again. The screen lit the room like a pale lantern, just long enough for her to catch it. Message from E. The name evaporated as quickly as it appeared, swallowed back into blackness. Claire's lips parted. E. No surname, no context, just a single letter. A secret carved down to its smallest form. She sat up, pulling the sheets against her chest as if fabric could make her invisible. She listened, hard, for any sound in the house. The familiar hum of the refrigerator, the faint tick of the hallway. Clock. But no shower, no garage door. The master bathroom was silent, the tiled floor still dry. Daniel? Her voice was barely more than breath. No answer. The stairs creaked faintly, though she hadn't moved. Old wood often lied, groaning. From the day's heat cooling, still she stared at the doorway, expecting a shadow. The phone buzzed again, softer this time. Screen flickering bright, then dark. Claire's throat tightened. She imagined leaning forward, taking the device in her hand, unlocking it, peeling back every layer of his privacy until the truth sat raw before her. But she didn't move, not yet. Instead, she lowered herself back down, body curled, eyes fixed on the ceiling where the glow had danced seconds earlier. She whispered into the dark, words only the walls could hold. I know you're hiding something, her. Pulse answered back, steady and unblinking, promising she wouldn't forget. The phone stayed silent for the rest of the night. Claire didn't. She lay awake, rehearsing the smile she would give him at breakfast, rehearsing the questions she wouldn't ask. By morning, suspicion had hardened into resolve, and the collar of Daniel's shirt would smell faintly of something she couldn't name. The kitchen smelled of batter and burnt edges. Claire flipped a pancake onto Daniel's plate, the sizzle of butter in the pan punctuating the silence between them. She hadn't slept, her eyes carried it. He, however, looked rested. Crisp shirt tucked perfectly, his tie folded neatly over the chair. The night replayed in her head. The glow, the message, the silence of his absence. But morning made liars of memory. Daniel's smile was steady, his voice measured as though nothing had ever flickered at 2:17 a.m. She slid into her seat. He cut into his breakfast, fork tapping porcelain. Morning, he said lightly. Morning, she replied. Her voice was thin, stretched over caution. You were restless, Daniel added. Heard you tossing. I didn't notice, she murmured. She studied his face, the perfect calm of a man who could rewrite reality as easily as setting the table. The phone from last night sat in his pocket. Its silence was louder than their small talk. Claire watched him wipe his hands with a paper napkin. He smelled faintly of pine cleaner, sharp and artificial. Beneath it, a note of something softer clung to his collar. Not detergent, not her perfume. She leaned back, studying him. Someone texted you late, she said casually. Work? Daniel barely paused, chewing once, twice, then swallowing. Contractor. Plumbing bids came in wrong. They panic over everything. His tone was dismissive, practiced. He didn't even look up. Strange hour, she said. Some people don't understand boundaries. Her lips curved into a smile she didn't feel. She reached across the table, brushing a crumb from his cuff. Eyes steady. Contractor named E? She asked softly. Daniel chuckled, shaking his head. No, E as in Ed. Short for Eduardo. He's new, forgetful. You're overthinking, Claire. Her chest tightened, but she kept her composure. He lied so smoothly he didn't hear the hollow in his own words. She smiled back, storing each phrase like an evidence file. The dishes clinked as Daniel rose, adjusting his collar, slipping his jacket on with a casual grace. "Dinner tonight?" he asked, voice effortless. "Of course," she said. "I'll make something you like." He kissed her cheek, lips cool, already elsewhere. The door shut with a practiced finality. She remained at the table, staring at the untouched pancake. On her plate, the pine cleaner clung faintly in the air. But beneath it, she could still trace that unfamiliar perfume, lingering like a ghost. Claire folded her napkin, sliding it into her lap, fingers trembling only after he was gone. She whispered into the quiet, "Then I'll find out who you're cleaning up for." And outside, somewhere in the neighborhood, laughter drifted faintly on the air, reminding her she wasn't the only one who knew him. The week stretched long, but Claire carried her suspicion quietly, polishing it like a hidden weapon. By Saturday, Daniel had promised a neighborhood barbecue, casual, carefree, the kind of gathering where secrets were supposed to dissolve in smoke and laughter. Claire dressed deliberately simple, sundress pale against the summer grass, smile rehearsed but soft. She wanted to watch him in the wild, among friends, where masks could slip without warning. The scent of grilled meat drifted over the yard, mingling with beer foam and citronella candles. Daniel moved from guest to guest, hosting with easy charm. Claire kept a wineglass in hand, sipping sparingly, eyes sharp beneath her calm exterior. Then Ethan arrived. The air seemed to shift, carrying his voice before his face. Deep laughter rolled in, effortless, drawing people toward him. He strode across the lawn, arms open, pulling Daniel into a hug held one breath too long. Claire noted the subtle lean of Daniel's shoulders, the way relief softened him at the "ye." "Contact, Ethan," Daniel greeted warmly. "About time." "You'd survive without me," Ethan teased. Their laughter overlapped, too smooth, too familiar. Claire extended her hand when Ethan turned. His grip was firm, smile quick. But when Daniel spoke again, Ethan's gaze slid just past hers, never fully meeting her eyes. She tilted her head, noting the evasion. "Claire," Daniel said, "you remember me talking about Ethan? Best man. At the wedding. Partner in crime since high school. Hard to forget," she replied evenly. Ethan's smirk faltered for a second, then returned. Later, as the sun dipped low and the fire pit crackled, Ethan lifted his beer bottle. "Too old. Stories," he declared, "and new beginnings." The circle of guests echoed the toast. Claire's glass clinked softly, though her mind caught on the phrasing. A dare, disguised as nostalgia. Her gaze cut across to Daniel, who laughed, his face open but eyes guarded. She turned back to Ethan, watching the corner of his mouth twitch as if he knew a secret she wasn't supposed to. Claire shifted closer to the firelight, warmth painting her skin. She could still hear the faint echo of her husband's phone in the dark bedroom, the single letter glowing on the screen. E. Now it had a face, and that face had just embraced her husband as though the world outside them didn't exist. Claire's smile remained steady as her mind began weaving threads between the night's silence and this man's sudden presence. If Daniel wouldn't give her truth, she would pull it from Ethan's eyes, even if he refused to meet hers. The barbecue lingered in Claire's thoughts long after the last ember cooled. Ethan's laughter had haunted the drive home, twining with Daniel's voice until she couldn't separate the two. By Monday night, Daniel claimed he would be late at the office. Paperwork that just won't quit. She kissed his cheek goodbye, smiled, and waited until his car disappeared. Then she moved. The attic smelled of cedar and dust. Claire tugged the chain for the single bulb, its yellow glow spilling over forgotten boxes and broken frames. She had cleaned this space 100 times, yet tonight she searched differently, eyes hunting not for clutter, but for secrets. Behind, a stack of suitcases. She found it. A tin box, rust crusting around its edges, lid sealed tight. Her hands shook as she pried it open with the edge of a screwdriver. The metal gave way with a squeal. Inside lay pieces of a past no one had spoken of. A bracelet, tarnished silver, charm bent like it had been stepped on. A packet of photographs, grainy, the kind that smelled faintly of chemicals. and beneath them a newspaper clipping dated 2009. Claire's breath caught. She unfolded the clipping carefully. College student missing after lakeside party. The headline screamed, though the article was brief. A girl, bright smile, hopeful future, never made it home. Alcohol was suspected. Witnesses gave little. The investigation cooled within weeks. Claire's eyes flicked to the photos. A bonfire. By a lake, bodies crowded close, and in the background, Daniel. Younger, careless grin, an arm slung around Ethan's shoulders. Ethan's eyes looked directly at the camera, but not at the girl in the foreground. Claire pressed the bracelet into her palm, metal biting. "Why keep this?" she whispered to herself. The addict seemed to lean in, waiting for an answer. She tucked the items back into the tin, sliding it beneath her sweater. The attic bulb swayed faintly, shadows stretching long across the beams. Downstairs, her phone buzzed, Daniel's name flashing. "Running late, don't wait up." Claire stared at the message, then at the tin in her lap. "Of course you are," she murmured. But now she understood. The affair was only the doorway. What waited behind it could collapse everything. Her husband's lies weren't just about who he loved. They were about who he had once left behind. And Ethan was always standing beside him. Claire couldn't stop replaying the attic discovery, the bracelet, the photos, the clipping that smelled faintly of mildew. They followed her into her sleep, chasing her through fragmented dreams. By morning, she felt raw, her chest tight with truths too heavy to hold alone. That was how she ended up in Dr. Avery Cole's office. The room smelled faintly of chamomile, cushions arranged in soft symmetry, a bookshelf lined with journals, and thick texts framed the wall, though Avery himself was disarmingly plain. Dark sweater, calm eyes, hands folded loosely in his lap. "Start anywhere you'd like," he said gently. Claire sat stiff on the couch, palms pressed to her knees. "I think my husband is lying to me," she whispered. Avery tilted his head. "Lying about what?" She hesitated, eyes fixed on the carpet's woven pattern. "Everything." Words poured out, hesitant at first, then urgent. She spoke of midnight texts, of a friend who laughed too long, of a tin box hidden where dust settled on forgotten things. She confessed to loving Daniel once, so fully, but now feeling like she was locked in a house of mirrors where every reflection shifted when she blinked. "He edits reality mid-sentence," Claire said. "One moment I know what I saw. The next, he's convinced me I imagined it." Avery's voice was steady. "That's manipulation, gaslighting, it's a cycle." Claire looked up, searching his face. "So it's not me?" "No," he said firmly. "It's not you." Her throat closed around a sudden rush of relief and grief tangled together. The office light caught faintly in the window, reflecting Claire's pale outline. She looked almost like a ghost watching her own confession. Her fingers twisted the edge of her sleeve until the threads pulled loose. "What should I do?" she asked. Avery leaned forward. "Stop waiting for him to admit the truth. He won't. People like that don't confess. They adjust the lie. You need evidence, proof he can't erase." Claire nodded slowly, her chest lifting with resolve. When the session ended, she stepped outside into crisp evening air. The world felt sharper, angles cleaner. She held her phone like a weapon, thumb hovering over Daniel's latest text. Working late again. She no longer read his words the same way. Claire whispered into the wind, as if Avery could still hear. "Then I'll build my own truth." Her reflection in the glass door stared back, lips curved in a faint, unfamiliar smile. And somewhere else in the city, Daniel was laughing with Ethan, unaware that his wife had just shifted from suspicion to strategy. Claire left Dr. Cole's office with a new kind of clarity. Proof would be her weapon. That night, instead of confronting Daniel, she composed a message from an untraceable account. The words were short, deliberate, and cruelly precise. Check the lake again. 2009 wasn't an accident. Then she waited. Detective Mara Ortiz received the tip the next morning. She sat at her cluttered desk in the precinct, coffee cooling beside her, files stacked like forgotten promises. When she opened the email, her pulse quickened. The case had haunted her once. A 19-year-old student found dead by the roadside near Lake Harrison. Bruises, alcohol in her blood, a party with too many conflicting stories. It had faded into dust for everyone else, but not Ortiz. Now the ghost had been tugged back into daylight. She reopened the old file, witness statements blurred with time, pages yellowed at the edges. Ethan's name surfaced, Daniel's too, scribbled in the margins, by a younger Ortiz. Both had been interviewed, both had walked away untouched. She remembered the frustration, the closed mouths, the way fear had silenced truth. Her eyes narrowed. "This isn't over," she murmured. Meanwhile, Claire lingered near the precinct's parking lot, sitting in her car with tinted windows. She didn't go inside. She only watched the movements, waiting for signs that her message had taken root. When she spotted Ortiz carrying the file toward her cruiser, Claire's breath caught. The detective's shoulders squared with purpose. Claire whispered, "Good." That night, Daniel's phone buzzed while he showered. Claire, careful, glanced at the screen. A message from Ethan glared back, not over text, "Call me." Her heart thudded. Whatever they were hiding, it wasn't safe for their devices. Detective Ortiz drove toward Lake Harrison as twilight bled into night. The water reflected the flashing red and blue from her cruiser, painting ripples with police light. The shoreline looked unchanged, but memory gave it weight. She stepped out, wind tugging at her coat, and stared across the black water. Somewhere beneath its silence lay the missing piece she had never been allowed to find. Back home, Claire stared at her reflection in the darkened kitchen window. Daniel hummed upstairs, unaware. She pressed her fingers against the glass and whispered, "Let the past come up for air." The reflection of Lake Harrison still haunted Claire's thoughts. She could picture Detective Ortiz standing on the shoreline, file in hand, dredging up a past Daniel swore never existed. But Ortiz wasn't her only move. Claire had learned something from Dr. Cole. Proof wasn't only about history. It was about the present. She began in the garage. The tool chest sat heavy against the wall, drawers smeared with grease. Daniel almost worshipped it, insisting every wrench had its place. But when Claire pulled the middle drawer open, past socket sets and drill bits, her hand struck something that didn't belong. A slim black phone, screen dark, tucked beneath. A rag. Her stomach turned cold. She powered it on. The device hummed faintly, the screen illuminating with a different passcode than Daniel's usual. Claire's breath steadied. She wasn't surprised. Later that night, she called Lily. "You're sure you want me involved?" Lily asked, voice hushed through the receiver. "I need someone I can trust," Claire whispered. A pause, then, "Tell me what to bring." The sisters met in Claire's kitchen after midnight, the air still carrying faint traces of Daniel's. "Cologne." Lily set down her laptop and tablet, eyes wide but determined. "Mirroring software," she explained. "It'll copy everything from his phone in real time. He won't even know." Claire handed her the device. "Do it." They worked in silence, broken only by the clatter of keys and the occasional buzz of the mirrored phone. Messages began to appear one after another, sliding onto the tablet's screen. Ethan's name glowed at the top of the thread. Claire's hands trembled. "You're late again. She'll notice." "Daniel, I told you. I handled it." E. "Not good enough. I need you." "Here, Daniel, stop putting this in writing." Claire's chest constricted. The intimacy was there, in tone, in urgency, in the way Ethan commanded and Daniel obeyed. She whispered, "It's him, Ethan." Lily glanced up, lips pressed tight. "Claire, these aren't just friendly texts." "No," Claire said, eyes fixed on the screen. "They're not." Screenshots stacked one after another, Lily saving each with quiet efficiency. Claire felt as though every captured image weighed heavier than the last, like rounds chambered in a gun she hadn't realized. She was building that. "We need to talk face to face." Not over text. Daniel. Tomorrow. The lake house. The words pulsed like a warning. Claire shut the laptop gently, her face pale but steady. This isn't just betrayal, she murmured. It's strategy. They've been planning something. Lily touched her arm. What are you going to do? Claire's gaze drifted toward the window, where night pressed against the glass. Watch, collect, and wait for the right time. The second phone went back into the drawer, nestled among the tools as though untouched. But Claire carried its ghost with her, the mirrored thread glowing silently in her pocket, ready to bleed whenever she needed it. She exhaled slowly, already thinking of her next move. Some secrets lived in words, others in the spaces between them. And Ethan had just given her both. The mirrored texts replayed in Claire's mind like a broken record. Tomorrow. The lake house. The words seemed to pulse beneath her skin. But she couldn't wait for Daniel to reveal himself. She needed to look directly into the eyes of the man pulling his strings. So she staged her accident. The cafe was small, tucked on a corner where commuters paused for caffeine and chatter. Claire chose her table by the window, nursing a cappuccino she didn't want. She had timed it carefully, knew Ethan came here between meetings. When the bell above the door jingled, she didn't even need to turn. His laugh entered first. Ethan spotted her instantly. Well, this is unexpected, he said smoothly, sliding into the chair across from her without invitation. Is it? Claire asked, stirring her drink though the foam had long since collapsed. Ethan's grin spread easily, white teeth framed by charm that felt too deliberate. Daniel mentioned you liked this place. Guess I got lucky. Claire tilted her head. You two talk about me often? His pause was brief, calculated. Only good things. You've got a husband who adores you. The words dripped like honey but burned like acid. Claire smiled, lips tight. That's comforting, she replied. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on the table. Cherish what you have, Claire. Not everyone gets a marriage as strong as yours. The line was casual, friendly even, but Claire felt the steel buried beneath it, a warning dressed in praise. She studied his eyes, dark and steady, unwilling to blink. You think it's strong? She asked lightly. I know it is, Ethan answered. Daniel is loyal. Claire's chest tightened. The word clanged against everything she had seen on the mirrored screen. Outside the window, rain streaked down, catching the reflection of Ethan's smile. It was too wide, too practiced, like gasoline shimmering on pavement. Beautiful, but ready to ignite. Claire sipped her coffee slowly, keeping her hands from trembling. Funny, she said softly. Loyalty means different things to different people. Ethan's grin faltered just slightly before snapping back into place. When he finally stood brushing invisible dust from his sleeve, he left her with one last remark. You're lucky, Claire. Don't forget that. Her smile didn't waver. Neither should Daniel. After he walked out, the cafe's hum returned. Spoons clinking, soft jazz drifting, the hiss of steaming milk. Claire exhaled, chest hollow. She had seen it clearly. Ethan led. Daniel followed. And if she wanted the truth to bleed out, she needed to drive them apart first, then break them both open. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A new message lit the screen. Daniel. Dinner tonight? Just us. Claire tapped the edge of the table, lips curving faintly. Yes, she whispered. Just us, for now. The rain from the cafe still clung to Claire's memory, streaks of water distorting Ethan's gasoline smile in the window. That night she lay awake beside Daniel, listening to his steady breathing, the faint whistle in his nose, the occasional twitch as he dreamed. He was peaceful only in sleep. Awake, he was a man made of alibis. She had proof now, messages, screenshots. The second phone hidden like a parasite in their home. But proof wasn't enough. She needed the kind of confession that couldn't be deleted, so she set her plan in motion. The lake house had been the scene of laughter and ruin back in 2009. Students had gathered around firelight, and one girl never came home. Now, years later, it was listed on a private rental site, gathering dust between summer bookings. Claire reserved it under her maiden name, ensuring Daniel wouldn't suspect. Anniversary weekend, she told him with a smile. A surprise. He looked at her, curiosity flickering, but said nothing. When she arrived ahead of him, Claire walked the creaking floors like a surveyor marking land. The walls still smelled faintly of mildew and pine. Dust coated the corners, cobwebs stitching thin threads above the windows. She chose her spots carefully. Under the stone mantel, she tucked a slim recorder, red light hidden by soot. Inside, a hollowed book on the shelf. Great Expectations, its spine worn and forgettable. She planted a miniature camera. Her hands didn't shake. This wasn't fear anymore. It was purpose. That evening, she parked by the shore, phone in her hand. A new anonymous message composed itself with calm precision. Detective Ortiz. If you want your ghost to speak, meet me. Lake House. Midnight. She hit send, then turned off the phone. The die was cast. Later, Daniel arrived with a bottle of wine and the kind of grin that belonged to newlyweds, not conspirators. He kissed her cheek and she let him. Happy anniversary, he said warmly. Claire smiled. It will be. The fire crackled in the hearth, its light throwing restless shadows across the walls. Daniel poured their glasses, clinking his against hers. To us, he said. Claire echoed it softly, though her eyes lingered on the mantel, knowing every word carried. Farther than he realized. Across town, Detective Ortiz read the anonymous tip for the second time. She tapped the steering wheel of her cruiser, jaw tight, the lake's name pulling at a wound that never healed. Midnight, she muttered. Fine, let's see what ghosts have to say. The lake house settled into silence as the night deepened. Claire leaned against the window, watching the reflection of Daniel's back as he tended the fire. Her pulse was steady, her plan sealed. The past was no longer content to sleep in photographs and clippings. It would have to wake. Here, in this house built on water and memory. Claire whispered to herself, words barely louder than the flames. Tomorrow everything changes. The lake house carried a silence that felt alive, broken only by the hiss of firewood. Claire sat across from Daniel at the worn oak table, her glass untouched, her posture careful. She had rehearsed this moment in her head, questions light as feathers that would grow teeth before he realized he was bleeding. Daniel leaned back, jacket tossed carelessly over a chair, shirt unbuttoned at the throat. He looked relaxed, unaware of the tiny red light glowing in soot above the mantel, unaware of the camera blinking in the hollowed book by the shelf. Claire began softly. Do you remember when we met? She asked, voice almost tender. Daniel smiled. Of course. You were wearing that ridiculous red scarf. I couldn't look away. She nodded. You've always been good with stories. His brow furrowed, but he chuckled. Stories? You make it sound like I embellish. You don't embellish, Claire said, eyes steady. You edit. The air thinned. What's that supposed to mean? He asked. She sipped her wine, then set it down. Like last week, a message at 2:17 a.m., a name on the screen. E. Daniel's jaw tightened. We've already talked about this, contractor. Her voice cut sharper. Contractors don't send I need you here at midnight. He pushed back from the table. You're twisting things again. No, she whispered. You are. Always. The Fire popped. Daniel raked his hand through his hair, pacing. Finally, the mask slipped. Fine. Ethan and I, there's more than you think. Claire's breath stayed even, though her heart raced. More than friendship? Yes, Daniel snapped. You happy now? She shook her head. Not even close, because that's not the only thing you've buried, is it? His eyes flashed. Don't. The girl, Claire said steadily. The one from the lake. Party. Daniel froze. His voice was low, broken. She stepped into the road. Ethan said, drive. The words cracked the air open, and then a slam at the door. Ethan strode in, breathless, eyes wild. Daniel, what the hell are you saying? Claire kept her gaze locked on him, her voice calm. Exactly what I needed. The recorder hummed, the camera blinked. The house itself seemed to hold its breath, walls leaning in to listen. The fire snapped louder, sparks scattering into the air, as if the room itself was startled. Ethan stood near the doorway, chest heaving, while Daniel's eyes darted to the mantel. He had realized, too late, that their words hadn't dissolved into the smoke. They had been captured, immortalized in the glow of a hidden recorder. Claire didn't flinch when he moved. She had been waiting for it. Daniel lunged, shoving the chair aside, hands reaching for the mantel. But Claire was already on her feet, her phone in her hand. She pressed the screen and set it on the table, the line to 911 open, her voice calm and deliberate. "This is Claire Weston, Lake House off Route 14. I need units sent now." "Are you insane?" Daniel roared. "Turn that off." Ethan took a step forward, his voice breaking. "Daniel, stop!" But Daniel didn't. His fingers clawed for the recorder, scraping the stone. Claire moved back, steady, her pulse pounding but her aim certain. From her coat pocket came the revolver. Small, black, unassuming. Something she had kept hidden for weeks, telling herself it was only insurance. "Don't," she said. Daniel froze, his chest rising and falling hard. His eyes weren't pleading, they were calculating, still trying to edit the moment into something survivable. "You wouldn't," he whispered. The air was thick with firelight. Ethan's face twisted between disbelief and fear. "Claire, put it down," Ethan said gently. "We can fix this." "No," Claire cut in. "I'm done fixing." Daniel lunged again. A desperate, graceless move. The sound that followed was deafening in its finality. One shot. Daniel staggered, eyes wide, secret still unfinished on his lips. He collapsed onto the rug, the wine glass shattering beneath him, red spilling like another confession. The room stilled. Ethan stared at her, as though the woman he thought he knew had been replaced by a stranger carved from steel. "You chatte, Mom," Andre's voice cracked. "What have you done?" Claire kept the revolver steady, her hand trembling only after the silence swallowed them. "What he forced me to," she replied. The open phone on the table carried her words into the dark, into waiting. Ears? The wail of sirens grew louder as the lake house seemed to exhale its final secret. Claire lowered the revolver onto the table, her hand steady now, the weight gone from her palms but heavy in her chest. Daniel's body lay sprawled across the rug, the fire painting him in restless orange. Ethan stood frozen, mouth open, eyes locked on her as if she had unstitched his entire reality. The front door burst open. Flashlights cut through the dark. Detective Ortiz stepped in first. "Hands where I can see them." Claire obeyed, palms lifted, eyes never leaving Ethan's. He looked more terrified of silence than of handcuffs. Ortiz's gaze swept across the room, taking in the body, the gun, the recorder blinking faintly from the mantel. "What the hell happened here?" she asked. Claire's voice was calm. "The truth." Later, under the harsh light of the precinct, Ortiz slid the tin box across the table, then the mirrored tablet, then the recorder. "You've been holding this for a while," Ortiz said. Claire nodded. "I didn't want belief. I wanted proof." Ethan sat in another room, separated by glass. His head bowed as officers cuffed his wrists. Ortiz had already heard the lake house recording, Daniel's fractured admission about the girl, Ethan's reaction. It was enough to pry open the cold case, enough to exhume the night that had stayed buried in silence for over a decade. Ortiz looked at Claire carefully. "You're confessing to shooting him?" "Yes." "No claim of self-defense?" Claire's lips curved faintly. "The truth doesn't need excuses." The room smelled of coffee gone bitter, metal and dust clinging to the walls. Claire sat straight, her reflection in the glass steady, almost foreign. For the first time, she wasn't rehearsing her smile. She wasn't editing her story. She had laid it bare, piece by piece, until the cost had finally arrived. Ortiz gathered the files, her jaw tight. "Justice doesn't come clean," she said. Claire whispered, "Neither does marriage." When The cell door closed behind her. Claire didn't flinch. She carried the memory of Daniel's lies, Ethan's laughter, the girl's face in the newspaper clipping. They were all threads in the same web, and she had chosen to cut herself free. By paying the price, the truth was hers, but it was not free.